Hello out there in SADS Facebook Live land. Great to have you here on Friday, August 7th. I'm on vacation, but I'm delighted that I get to spend the next 40 minutes with you all. My name's Mike Ackerman. I'm a genetic cardiologist at the Mayo Clinic, as you know, and president of the board of the Sudden Arrhythmia Death Syndrome Foundation, the SADS Foundation. And it's on behalf of Alice Laura, my CEO, my boss, and the SADS Foundation that we bring you episode number 24. I guess I should do it this way, 24. And we've been together since March. So welcome back. I'm so glad you've joined us. We've had almost 80,000 views on SADS Facebook Live. And so if you missed some of the prior 23 episodes, you can go find them on the SADS Foundation YouTube channel. You can find them on the SADS Foundation website, www.sads.org. You can find them on SADS Facebook. And if you missed episode 22, two ago, that was with Dr. Stacy Rizza, infectious disease and COVID-19 expert from Mayo Clinic. And that was a fantastic episode. We've had 8,000 views on that alone. And I've received some incredible comments yesterday from my alma mater, Luther College, indicating that they thought that was the best episode on COVID-19 that they ever have seen to date, and how refreshing it was that it was political free. And that's our goal at the SADS Foundation, is just to the best of our ability, give you facts, give you the information that we're learning in real time as members of the SADS Foundation, as a long QT genetic heart disease specialist at Mayo Clinic, and as a dad who my wife and I are working through our own back to school issues with our children. So like many of you, we share your concerns and your thoughts and your anxiety. Oh, no anxiety. I'm not anxious for anything. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication. So I choose not to be anxious, but there are concerns. There is the issue of respecting the situation that we have in front of us, not fearing. Hashtag refuse to fear out there. Let's do it. But today's episode and questions are about your back to school questions and issues. And let me give you a couple of insights as of August 7th on the John Hopkins website. And if you haven't found that website, the John Hopkins COVID-19, that has some of the current facts and figures, I find it an incredibly helpful website. We also have one at Mayo Clinic, and you can go to mayoclinic.org, but I use the Hopkins website. 19 million cases of COVID-19 as of today, 716,000 deaths worldwide. In the United States, we're quickly approaching 5 million. We're at 4.9 million, 160,000 cases. In my county, and this is a point that I want to make with you, is what is the rate in your county where your child will be going back to school? In mine, in Olmsted County, we have 1,700 cases. Our population is 110,000. So we're just under 2%. So about 1 in 55 of the people in my county have COVID-19. 23 deaths to date, only 1%. And thankfully, we're at that number. And so what do you need to be thinking about as we get ready to go back to school? I have a figure to show you. It shows a little encouragement. I've shown this before, but this is, see if you can see it. Yep. This is from the Hopkins website, and you can see the trend. And this was at the beginning of the pandemic. And we thought these numbers, 20,000 a day, were a lot. And then look at over here. This is over 60,000 a day. But the last 6 days of August, we have been under 60,000 cases a day in the United States. So maybe we're starting to bend the curve again, maybe. Happier thoughts than that curve, of course, is this one. Let me show you this. Let's see, there we go. That is a special place. That's the view out our door at Green Lake, Wisconsin. Would love if you could be here and enjoy this. So we are all getting ready for back to school, aren't we? And as we get ready for back to school, we have lots of questions. And there is a great website. If you haven't found it yet, you need to. And we at the SADS Foundation will put it up. And here is the website I'm talking about. It is from the CDC, Center for Disease Control. It's about COVID-19, and specifically, it's a school decision-making tool for parents, caregivers, and guardians. I went through it. We at SADS Foundation has gone through it, and the SADS Foundation thanks Aaron. And Aaron, thank you for all your work in the background putting these together. But Aaron just posted it. You see the website address. We at SADS Foundation support the items in it. It is not partisan, thankfully. It's not red, it's not blue, it's red, white, and blue. It's called the United States of America, and it's for the sake of our children. Now, are you concerned about your child? Are you concerned about his or her risk? How concerned are you? Is that concern calibrated correctly? Remember, we started the program 4 months ago. Hashtag refuse to fear. Why did we say refuse to fear? Because number one, your child, with very few exceptions in the genetic heart disease community, your child is not at any greater risk of COVID-19 bad outcome than my 17-year-old daughter who's returning to school her senior year, or my 21-year-old son who's returning to senior year at Baylor University. So your risk, that's the good news. The risk is not higher because of their heart disease. This is not the at-risk heart disease that was put forward that got a lot of us appropriately concerned, thinking that our children with genetic heart disease are at much greater risk of a bad COVID-19 outcome. The good news is they're not. And what we do know is if your child is not obese, if you are not obese, if you and your child do not have hypertension and do not have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and you're not elderly, you're young, like me, young. If you don't have those risk features, COVID-19, even should your child get it, it should not be a big deal. In fact, we just looked it up. Of all of the 160,000, 5 million cases, of the 5 million cases, 6.6% of those cases, so less than 1 out of every 13, have been children, youth, adolescents 18 or under. So that's good. Of the 160,000 deaths, less than 1 out of every 1,000, less than 1 out of every 1,000 have been 18-year-olds or under. Remember, these tragic deaths are concentrated among our senior citizens. 60% of the deaths are occurring in 1% of the population in the United States, called our nursing homes. So our kids fundamentally are not at great risk. They are not at high risk. And if your child is otherwise healthy, except for his or her long QT syndrome, CPVT, Brugada Syndrome, and so forth, they are not at high risk. So when you fill out that CDC form from that website that asks, is your child at high risk if they get COVID-19? The answer is no. And that's good news. Then the second question that's asked is, are you at high risk? Meaning the caregivers, the parents. Do you have high risk features? And hopefully for most of us, we don't. If one of our high risk features is our weight and overweight and obesity, let's work on it. Let's do it. Now is the time to reverse the direction of our weight. If our blood pressure is elevated, let's lower it. If our type 2 diabetes has high glucose, let's get it under control. But if we don't have those features and we're a young parent, then we don't have to check off that at-risk box. And so remember, always remind yourself that your child and your family's genetic heart disease is not one of the at-risk heart diseases. So that should give us a lot of reassurance. So that makes you as a parent like me. Your child, without any other risk factors, has the same low risk as my 17-year-old daughter going to high school and my 21-year-old son going to Baylor. So what are we, my wife and I, doing as parents, thinking about the readiness of the school to receive our child? And so that's, I think, some of the things that we've been doing, and we'll just share from parent to parent how we've been sizing up. Number one, what kind of communication are we receiving from the school system as to their readiness, as to their plans, as to the expectation of something you guys know? I mask, you mask, we all mask together. Do it. Those of you who are anti-maskers, stop it. Put the mask on in the public square. So will the school be a universal masking school like Mayo Clinic is? I mask, patients mask. It's a universal masking campus. I really don't see any other practical way. So has the school embraced universal masking of teachers and students, and those students, for a variety of reasons, who can't cope with a mask, that there's accommodation made for that. But starting with, what is the masking? What is the distancing? What are they doing to help maintain distancing, social distancing? Is it going to be a combination of classroom and hybrid? And are they, spreading out the kids? Are they staggering the lunches and so forth? And what kind of communication are you getting? Look here, this is a great school, Baylor University. Why is this a great school? One, it's a great school that our son is at. Two, the president, Dr. Linda Livingston, she is doing an amazing job of communication. The students get an email, and we, the parents, get an email almost every other day, and have done so probably for the last 3-4 weeks as they're prepping for 824, Plan 824, the return of the students to start August 24. What are universities and schools doing? A lot of them are doing. They're doing a hybrid classroom. They're spreading out. They're universal masking. They're disinfecting, a lot of washing, and hiring custodial care to do a lot more cleaning than they ever have done. They're not doing fall break. They're dismissing at Thanksgiving Day to then do hybrid or distance learning the rest of between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and not bringing the student body back after having gone out. In other words, there's a plan, and you and I get to see the plan. So have you gotten to see the plan for your school system? And that's in the CDC website, is what is the school's plan for the safe measures that we know about? We can do this, everybody. It is not rocket science. We put on the mask, we wash our hands, we don't touch our face. It's not that big of a deal if we do those things. And if our child gets infected, remember, less than 1 in 1,000 chance of death. 1 in 1,000 of the COVID deaths are kids. So we can make that risk even lower by doing these steps. So are you pleased with your school plan? I have to say, I'm really pleased with our high school. We're going back. I have zero hesitation to put my daughter back in that environment. My son is leaving, and his classes start in 17 days at Baylor University. He's going to start driving back to Waco, Texas. We're not flying, so we've made that adjustment. He's driving back from Rochester, Minnesota, and he will then be there for the start. And I have zero anxiety. And that's what I want you all to have. So go check out that website at CDC. Look at the information. Take the self-assessment about, remember, the box for your child. If your child is healthy except for his long QT, he is low risk. If your child is healthy except for her CPVT, she is a low risk person. You cannot check that danger box. These are not high risk diseases. And that's good news. I'm still at 3 cases, everyone. 3. of my 3,000 patients that I personally take care of with genetic heart conditions, 3 have had COVID. 2 asymptomatic, 1 a non-hospitalized doozy, but getting better and did not have to be hospitalized. So that's what we're doing. I'm curious how you're sizing up the return to school. We're going to update this regularly as we learn more information, and we are learning in real time. Oh, I forgot to tell you, what else should you know as you're sizing it up is how bad is COVID-19 in your community right now? Is the curve flat? Do you know those numbers? I would. Check out Johns Hopkins website on COVID-19. Look up your county. Like I looked up our county and saw the number of cases. Less than 2% of our county has COVID-19, has or has had it. And so by knowing that, you kind of know how much is the virus sort of swirling around our neck of the woods. And then you can weigh that all together in the balance. And then the last item before I look at your questions, and perhaps the most important one, is are you at peace? Are you comfortable with returning your child? Are you excited? If you're worried and freaking out, then you better come up with plan B, because it is not going to be a good experience for you. But just to tell everybody, don't go to school, let's just homeschool, is not a solution either. Our kids need to get back to school. We need to get them back there safely, and you need to be comfortable. I'm comfortable. My wife is comfortable for our daughter and our son. And so we're fine. We're not having to think about plan B. Are you comfortable? If you're already homeschooling your children and your child is thriving in the homeschool environment, great. You get to stay in the social distance matrix, and you've already figured out well before COVID-19 that homeschooling is the formula for your family and your child. So don't switch. If you're not a homeschooler and haven't been a homeschooler and you can't do homeschool, and now you're feeling guilty because you're not keeping your child at home, get rid of the guilt. Just follow the drill, because it is really an overall a relatively quite a safe place. So a lot of the anxiety that's been created, I don't know where it's come from. We need to be prepared. We need to have a plan. We need to be readied. We need to do the simple things, wash hands and put on the mask. And we can make this work. So and Janine, hello, Jean. I'm looking at the questions now. I saw that today. I saw that the governor of New York gave the green light for returning to school for New York City. So I think that is good news for the families of New York to now weigh in the balance so that they can decide. And Monique, hello there, Monique. And I'm glad to do it on vacation. Yeah, I agree with you. So Monique's question is, masks are not mandatory. Only thing they are doing is cleaning at night and telling parents to check for fever beforehand. I don't like that. I'll just tell you, my approach is, I think unless there's almost no SARS-CoV-2 virus around in a community, that I don't see that we should be in a mask-free position right now. Maybe we can get there by January, but I'm fully expecting us at Mayo Clinic to be universally masked for the rest of 2020. I'm just expecting it. Do I like it? No. I actually dislike the notion that I can't see my patients from about here on down, trying to read their body language. We're also doing video consults. In some ways, I enjoy my video consults with my patient. I can see them. So I'm not like pro mask. I'm just sort of resigned mask. I think the data is clear that the masks make a huge difference. If you're not sure of that, just check out that study of the hair cutting salon of the 2 beauticians who were affected, wore the mask. Nobody of their patrons got infected. That was close proximity. That was violation of 6 feet distancing. So, Monique, I share your concern. I'm not a fan if they're not wearing the mask. I think they need to be masking. Certainly here in the States. There may be other countries, and I see Beck from the UK, that the children do not need social distance or wear masks, but the adults have to, and the adults are wearing a mask. I actually don't like that. I don't think it makes any sense to me that the teachers wear the masks, but the kids don't. The kids, so remember, the whole purpose of the mask is I mask for you. My mask is principally to protect my patient, you, in case I am an asymptomatic shedder. You wear your mask to protect me. So the whole principle of universal masking requires both sides to be wearing the mask. And I think this notion that the kids can't handle a mask, that's ridiculous. Most kids can. I just saw a beautiful little 4-year-old happily wearing her mask. So I think we can do this. I don't really like this notion of saying that one side of the aisle, the children don't need the mask, but the teachers do, and vice versa. So obviously I feel like the universal masking is the way to go. Hi, Aaron. So I love hearing from Aaron, and Aaron sharing that masks are required until the students are seated and 6 feet apart. I like that. That's a good compromise. I think the data, as Dr. Stacy Rizza shared with us 2 weeks ago, is that unless that person is in front of you in proximity, sneezing into your face, 6 feet away is about where the droplets are going to stop reaching. So I think if people are not coming to school sick, an asymptomatic shedder is not going to shed and launch 6-7 feet away. And so, if they're not liking the mask the entire time, I guess I can be good with that. Again, I would not be then touching desks, and again, washing hands a lot. Kara or Kara, I don't recognize your name, so welcome to SADS Facebook Live land. A child with LQT1 and asthma. It's a great question. We've addressed that at the SADS Foundation before. Most patients who have concomitant asthma, and asthma is a frequently common condition, right? So about 7%, 7 to 10% of individuals have airway hyperresponsiveness or viral-induced asthma or asthma. So it makes sense that 7 to 10% of all my long QT patients will also have a little bit of asthma. Now, if the asthma is mild, we can treat my long QT patients who have asthma with their beta blocker and not have the beta blocker aggravate their asthma. So we can do both. For somebody who has long QT and brittle asthma, where they are maybe steroid dependent, they get hospitalized once in a while, they have to go into the emergency department for a nebulizer treatment. Maybe for that kind of long QT who's asthmatic is where we start thinking about a surgery that you heard about last week with my interview with Dr. Peter Schwartz. If you missed that, go to the SADS YouTube channel and check out that interview with just a wonderful person in Peter Schwartz. But the treatment that he helped discover for long QT, left cardiac sympathetic denervation surgery, that minimally invasive videoscopic surgery, is a strategy that we've approached some of our long QT patients whose asthma was very beta blocker sensitive, where the beta blockers aggravated their asthma. Danielle, and welcome back, Danielle. School bus. Yeah. I'm okay with the school bus. I think the school bus, as long as we're masked and getting off the mask, we wash our hands. I know we're probably not going to be 6 feet away in the school bus at all times. But if we're sitting facing forward and we're having the mask on and we're not going to school, if we're feeling under the weather in the first place, I don't think the bus is going to be a big deal. This thing, SARS-CoV-2, is not just waiting for people to get on the school buses to spread like wildfire. This is not where the virus is spreading. Where is it spreading? You guys know it. Bars, Okay, heavily congregated areas of adult individuals not distancing, not wearing their mask, and transmitting this. So bars, not a great place. Highly congregated areas. I don't think the virus is just lurking in the buses. So I'm not very concerned about the bus. That's me. Um, Natalie's asking a different question, but I like it, and I'm just scrolling straight on down. Can an epileptic seizure cause torsades in LQT2 patients? Does having seizures in LQT2 patients increase the likelihood of torsades in the future if on beta blockers? Natalie, I love your question, in part because our team made part of this discovery about the connection or the relationship between type 2 long QT syndrome and seizures or epilepsy. The first observation many years ago now was that when we learned that the patient was having seizures, they were more likely to have LQT2 than LQT1, which are the two most common genetic subtypes. We then looked into the why, and we hypothesized that maybe those who have LQT2, when they have torsades, that maybe the brain is more irritable to that cerebral hypoperfusion, meaning less blood to the noggin, to the head. And maybe their seizure threshold in their brain was lower, meaning easier to show epileptic seizures. And that is partly true. But the other possibility is that it is possible that a subset of LQT2 patients, when they're having their seizure, they're actually truly having a brain electrical problem while their heart is completely normal. And so this requires the team to carefully dissect the spell to decide in that spell, in that LQT2 person, was it a heart rhythm issue that then set off the brain electrical issue, or was the brain giving an epilepsy issue while the heart was perfectly normal? So the team may or may not install a loop recorder to monitor rhythm, to prove what the rhythm was in, but having a seizure itself, the brain misbehaving, is not a trigger to the heart misbehaving. But more importantly, a well-treated LQT2 patient should not have heart issues at all. And if they continue to have spells and they look like epilepsy and seizures, maybe it's because it really, really is epilepsy and seizures. So a lot has been published on that now, Natalie, and it's a great question. I hope this was a helpful, quick answer. Mara is asking, yes, you can get back on. It will be posted on the SADS YouTube channel. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be on the SADS website, www.sads.org. Long QT kids, you're asking to returning to college. My view is if you're pleased with the college plan, go for it. I think, and I lost where you were there. Oh yeah, Mary. So the college plan, I'm sending my son to college. It's time. He's been home since middle of March. Just ask him. It's time for him to go back. And increase returning to sport, that really is going to depend on the situation at the school. So our school system just announced that there's going to be women's tennis this fall. That's my daughter's sport. But men's football, boys football has been moved to the spring. I don't think you have to have an echocardiogram necessarily for long QT. Maybe if you had ARVC and you got sick, a follow-up imaging study for ARVC makes sense. Now, if a student is exposed to COVID-19, should they stay home from school and for how long? You should reach out to your community and ask for guidance as to what should be the plan. Your school should have a recommended approach if there has been an exposure. Usually, if there's been an exposure, we would do a self-quarantining. We would get the COVID PCR test to see if we've been infected with the SARS-CoV-2, and if we've been proven negative, then we can return. So in fact, when I talked about the contingency plans, guess what they're doing at my son's university? They're mailing out COVID kits to all of the student body to get swabbed, to send in, and they have to be COVID clean before they're admitted back on campus. And so that again is looking into what is the plan for your college, your university, your high school, your middle school, and are you pleased and comfortable with the plan? Felicia from New York City, diagnosed with idiopathic ventricular fibrillation. For those of you who don't know, that just means she probably had an out of hospital cardiac arrest. She was shocked back. The doctors did their drill, and after doing their drill, they can't give a name of a disease as to the why Felicia did that. And so then they call it idiopathic, meaning I don't know, ventricular fibrillation. It is rare. The good news on that, Felicia, is of all of my patients with that condition, it never strikes a second time. Half never has the VF episode strike again. The other half have it occur during the first battery life, and that's why we implant a defibrillator. If your defibrillator were to shock you again, it's really important for somebody to take a really close look at your ICD traces, because there may be a target for a heart rhythm specialist and ablationist to go in there and find that irritating PVC that is upsetting the apple cart and targeting it and ablating it. We don't start with that, but we keep that in our mind so that if you declare yourself with having a second episode, we start thinking about going after a target. Yeah, Kara is sharing a concern that she's thinking the risk of infection in enclosed spaces will skyrocket. I think that really remains to be seen. I think if we follow the precautionary measures, we are not going to see a skyrocket. Why have we seen a skyrocket in the United States? Is because people have not been doing the drill. I know it's tricky. Put a mask on, wash your hands, don't touch your eyes. Obviously, I'm being facetious. So I think the sense I get is we're going to learn. We're going to find out how many schools will have to abandon ship and return to distance learning because there was an outbreak on their campus. And I'm sure every school has a different threshold of what they're going to count as an outbreak. And so we'll all see this together. But Kara, you asked a great question. Most treatments have known triggers for long QT syndrome. And you say, right? Question mark. Actually, no. Most of the treatments that are looking to be healthy and helpful with efficacy for COVID-19 do not have QT danger. We talked at length about one set of treatments, how hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin together alone and together are QT dangerous in somebody with long QT syndrome. But that is likely not to be your child's treatment, because that treatment, with more and more studies coming in, there is just not a signal of efficacy. I wish there was. We could easily navigate the QT issue in almost everybody, even in my long QT patients if we had to, but there's just not an efficacy signal. But I would have loved it if there was. Cheap medicine, readily available, could scale it up, would have been a wonderful success story, but I don't think we're going to get this success story. So the red pill, blue people can continue to do their red pill, blue pill. I'm colorblind. It's not a Republican pill, a Democrat pill. It's a pill that just unfortunately doesn't work. And so the rest of the treatments being used right now are not QT dangerous. And Sherry's excited. That's good. And I'm just trying to scroll through your, another question about flu season. Oh, thanks, Kara. Get your flu shot, everybody. It is really important to get vaccinated against influenza. Influenza season is going to be coming around this fall. The SARS-CoV-2 virus will not have a vaccine this fall. Not going to happen. So we don't want to have coexistence of SARS-CoV-2, which is going to continue, and then a new flu season coming in September, October, November, causing flu. Influenza will claim about 10,000 lives in the United States again this flu season. It's done that almost every flu season for the past decade, every year. It'll do it again. Imagine how bad it would be if people did not get their flu shot. Imagine how much less it would be if everybody who is eligible would get their flu shot. And then remember, 2 weeks ago, we learned from Dr. Stacy Rizza that it looks like those who get their flu shot for a different virus, influenza, looks like that flu shot may actually help attenuate, decrease, modify the risk from a SARS-CoV-2 infection, meaning that it looks like the vaccine process primes our immune system and it gives us a leg up on the fight against SARS-CoV-2. Bottom line, all of you join me and get your flu shot. I get mine every year. You should get yours. You're welcome, Mary. Jennifer, hi back to you. Say hello to Landry. She is one of my favorites. Don't tell everybody else. I'm serious. You're all the favorites, but I'm glad you're doing better. That means a lot to me. Janine's asking about, do I think schools should close or should there be a quarantine for students if students or staff test positive? That's a great question, Janine. And I must say that is kind of the one part that if I had to, I've been bragging on Baylor University and their communication plan and the readiness and the precautionary measures and the hybrid strategy and the extra disinfecting that they're going to be doing at high touch points. So I really think they've done a great job. But so far, among the school systems that our kids are involved with, what I have not heard and what I wish we would be hearing is sort of the if then clause of if an outbreak occurs to this threshold, this is plan B. So that we have a plan in place ahead of time. And maybe that's wishful thinking on my part. Maybe you can't plan ahead and you can't say, for a school of this size, we'll let X percent be positive before we shut down. Maybe we can't do simple arithmetic like that. I would like that. I like, in my own practice, I like lines in the sand. As my patients know, I use that expression that if we cross this line, we'll stop thinking about it and we'll act on it. And if it crosses this line in the sand, we'll now do plan B. And so I'm wired that way. And so, Janine, I would have liked that if our schools that our kids go to would have said, we have 16,000 students. If we reach threshold X, we're going to move to contingency plan Z. If we move, so I want that. We don't get that. We don't have that yet. I've asked for it. I'm sure they have reasons for that. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and Andrea, you are so welcome, and all of you. I recognize some of the voices. Some of you are going to become fast new friends of mine and part of the SADS family. And for those of you who have chosen my institution, Mayo Clinic, and our Winland Smith Rice Genetic Heart Rhythm Clinic for your care, you know it is an absolute privilege and an honor to be called your physician. So thanks for joining us at SADS Facebook Live. And as we come to the top of the hour, I'm going to take Jen's as the last one. And she's a teacher, and I love you as a teacher. I know there are a lot of things floating around about the teachers, and they don't want to go back to school, or they do want to go back to school, or this and that. Teachers, you are the heart and soul of our children's education. And for the vast majority of us who don't homeschool and didn't homeschool, we need you. God bless you. And thanks for being a teacher. But she's sharing with me that she has to mask and the students don't. I don't like it. I'll just share that with Jen. She says that I've been of the mind that the only plan that makes sense in the student body, especially high school, because where the high school contact points, and we as parents have much less control of where the high schooler goes after school, after classes, how socially distanced are they doing? I think the high school student body can be an incubator of this virus, just like the college. We saw the outbreak. I think it was which campus on the East Coast just recently, Rutgers, I think. So we know it's not that it can't incubate there, it can. And so I personally think that the teachers masking, but the students don't at the middle school, high school level makes no sense. Could I make an argument that we probably don't need to be masking our kindergartners, first grade, or second grade? Yes, because as parents, after school, they're in a isolated place. You know where they are. They come home to you. You know where they are, and so I could give a pass on letting kindergartners, first graders not have masks. But at middle school, sixth grade on, having only one side of the aisle masking, the teachers but not the students, honestly, makes no sense to me. Well, everyone, with that, we've come to the top of the hour. I've really enjoyed the time. I've loved your questions. You've made me be sort of on my game. I hope it's been an A game that I've been on, and I've tried to field your questions on the fly. That's always stimulating to do that, and I wish you well in this effort. We're going to probably have another back to school update in a couple weeks once schools are in session. How is it going? What are we learning? What are best practices? And how are you all doing with it? Next week, stay tuned. I'm just looking on the calendar. I think next week is going to be a great one. I'm going to be interviewing a psychologist, Shannon Hurrigan, I believe, that's what I'm told, dealing with mental and emotional health. Sort of how are we coping with our genetic heart condition? How are we coping with COVID-19? And how are we coping with the intersection of the two? So you're going to like that one next week. In 2 weeks, our vice president of the board of SADS, Dr. Susan Etheridge, is going to join me again. And the SADS Foundation has been collating the 10 most frequently asked questions of the SADS Foundation over the past decade or so. And we're going to run through, David Letterman style, the top 10. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Well, this was episode 24. Like I said, you can see the previous 23 on YouTube. And the one from 2 weeks ago, do me a favor, download that one, tweet that one, send it, and let's see it go viral. People have said it has been so helpful. And I again just thank Dr. Stacy Rizza for her and I able to do the virus, just the COVID, in a nonpartisan way. Just the facts, separating fact from fiction, hype from hope. And I'm going to return to vacation mode now because guess who's waiting for me downstairs? You guessed it. This is who's waiting for me downstairs. That's my granddaughter Jaden, who just turned 6 months old on July 28th. And she's saying, "Hurry up, Grandpa." So I'm going to hurry up and join her. So until next week, everyone, stay safe, stay good mind, everyone. Refuse to fear. Do the simple. I mask, you mask. Wear this I wore this at the grocery store long before it became a Minnesota mandate. Put your masks on. After you take them off, wash your hands. This virus does not like hot water, soap, or 60% alcohol solution. Don't touch your eyes. Stay well, everyone. Take care. Please embrace the hashtag refuse to fear. We can do this together. So until next week, blessings, everyone. And I can't wait to see you again in a week. Take care.